On 12th June 2025, a tragedy shook the entire nation.
Mayday, mayday, mayday! I'm in trouble! Mayday, mayday!
Terrain! Pull up!
260 innocent lives were lost. And 30 days later, AAIB released its initial report. But still, many critical questions are left unresolved, fueling speculations.
As I've said in some of my earlier statements, that this report throws more questions than answers.
This report was expected to shed light on the sequence of events that led to one of the deadliest aviation disasters in recent memory of India.
The report has also indicated the experience of pilots, the pilot's background, the aircraft background. Interestingly, there has been no adverse observation about the past behavior of machine, because some aircrafts are usually accident prone or incident prone, or they may have had some past history of accidents or some kind of servicing issues which are not there. Nor the pilots had any such issues. They have very unblemished record. So I think so far, I would say that it has done a lot of exclusion. Now, what caused is the question, and in fact, in many ways, as I've said in some of my earlier statements, that this report throws more questions than answers.
The AAIB's findings confirmed that both engine fuel control switches transitioned from run to cutoff within a second of each other, mere moments after takeoff. In fact, this action starved the engines of fuel, resulting in catastrophic loss of power. Yet the report does not provide a precise timeline for when the engine stopped producing thrust. Instead, it offers a fragmented chronology.
So far, this report has clarified that there was neither a weather issue, which is never a case of primary accident. It is a contributory. It can be a contributory factor. There is also no sabotage here. The other factor which is important is that the aircraft took off with the proper thrust and speed. So there was no problem in terms of the engine performance when it took off. They were generating proper power.
Despite these details, the report fails to clarify the exact moment when each engine ceased producing thrust. In fact, the experts also say that the ambiguity is compounded by the lack of a comprehensive cockpit voice recorder. In fact, the transcript and the absence of the clear voice identification, making it impossible to determine which pilot performed which action or why the switches were moved in the first place. In fact, experts' interpretation is that this report makes it clear that the pilots did not interfere with the system, as there was a sense of confusion. The AAIB's report rules out several potential causes such as bird strikes, fuel contamination, or mechanical failure of the switch themselves, but does not explain how two heavily guarded and physically protected switches could have been moved almost simultaneously. In fact, as per experts, the switches require a deliberate upward pull to unlock before they can be toggled and are designed to prevent accidental activation.
It is not a machine. It is not something which can be done in a fraction of seconds. There is a mechanism by which you pull it out, and it is always done when you are when you are coming to the end of the flight. And in between the flight, it can only be done when there is one or the other engine develops some kind of snag, and which can cause some kind of either imbalance to the gravity of the aircraft, or otherwise a fire or some kind of unfortunate incident. So no such thing has been reported, nor even when you see the debris on the ground, you will find the engines are intact, the fuel control switches are intact, they are in open position.
The report also references a US Federal Aviation Administration advisory on fuel switch locking mechanism, but notes that it was not mandatory and had not been implemented on this very aircraft. One of the most contentious aspects of the report is the brief exchange captured on the CVR. One pilot asked, "Why did you cut off?" And the other replied, "I did not do so." The identities of the speaker remains unknown. The report offers no further context or analysis. This snippet, rather than clarifying events, has become the focal point for speculation, particularly regarding the possibility of deliberate pilot action.
But when we look at the cockpit voice recorder communication between captain and co-pilot, so captain was caught unaware, and captain asked the co-pilot whether co-pilot has shut down the engine, which he said no. So in fact, in my opinion, that is a very strong argument in favor of the pilot that they did not interfere with it. And within a matter of few seconds, again the fuel system came to life, which is where the pilots tried to take the corrective action, which was not enough, which did not respond in time.
The response from India's pilot community has been swift and unequivocal. The India Commercial Pilots Association and the Airline Pilots Association of India have condemned what they describe as reckless and unfounded insinuation of pilot suicide in the public discourse surrounding the report. In fact, their objections are grounded in several key points. First comes the lack of evidence. The association stressed that there is absolutely no basis for such a claim at this stage, and invoking suicide based on incomplete or initial information is irresponsible and deeply insensitive to the families involved. Pilot associations also argue that pilots undergo rigorous psychological and professional screening, not to forget the recruitment training, and also to operate under strict safety and mental fitness protocol. Suggesting suicide without evidence is gross violation of ethical reporting and a disservice to the dignity of the profession. The AAIB's report, while detailed in its technical chronology, leaves several crucial questions unanswered.
The first thing is why there was an automatic switch off of the fuel control switches. Secondly, the automatic opening of red. And thirdly, why the second engine didn't respond to the power generation as was needed, whereas the first engine did come. So, man, you have to look at the software glitches here, you have to look at the fuel supply lines here. So, it's a very major issue. And many times in our investigations, we find that cause is somewhere else than what is being looked at, what comes out on the surface.
Until these questions are addressed, the mystery of Air India 171 will persist. In the words of the Indian Commercial Pilots Association, the crew of AI-171 acted in the line with their training and responsibility under challenging conditions. They deserve support, not vilification based on conjecture. Meanwhile, Union Civil Aviation Minister Ram Mohan Naidu categorically said that one must not draw conclusions from this very report and wait for the final report. But the final report must rise to its standards, providing clarity and closure rather than compounding doubts and griefs.